Hello, magic makers, and welcome back to the Metaphysical Apothecary. We are your hosts, Shannon and Megan.
Hi, everyone.
Also known as the Scorpio Sisters, here to explore the mysterious, the magical, and the arcane. Another wildlife behavior pattern that is worth noting, especially since they're the most prevalent beings, is human behavior. It's not something that is often looked at for divination purposes. It's not often looked at for message purposes, but humans are essential to understanding what's happening in the general area, what's happening with the genus loci and or your own safety.
Yeah.
Now, if a group of humans are running away from a direction, you don't necessarily want to go in that direction.
No.
If there's a human who is behaving oddly, you pay attention because it could mean danger.
Mm-hmm.
Human behavior is just as important as the animal behaviors in your area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often overlooked.
Except that, as you said, Shannon, if there's a group of people moving away from a certain area, then you know that there's danger happening there, just like you would know there was danger happening somewhere if a flock of birds suddenly flew up out of an area of trees. You would know that there's something going on over there.
Mm-hmm. On an individual level, if a child is not willing to go into a place, you know there's a problem.
That's very true.
Yeah. If there's a group of kids who are laughing and happy, you know that's usually a very safe place. You want to be a little bit more aware because as the adult, you want to make sure that there aren't nefarious beings around, but you can be more relaxed in that setting as well.
Right. You can often tell what kind of energy a place has by who likes to gather there, if anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're acting when they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But magically speaking too, especially in populated areas where people are all packed together, if you are in a space and everyone in there seems just very angry and they seem isolated and they seem depressed, haul your ass out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's no negative energy entities in that space, the vibration of that area is the opposite of genius loci. That's going to bring you down, especially if you have problems with mental illness. Haul your ass out.
Public parks in more populated areas, it gives you the natural setting necessary to find a place to relax.
Right.
It may be man-made, but that particular public park allows you some time and some connectivity to the world at large, the natural world at large.
Uh-huh. Yes, public parks can be places of respite too from the hustle and bustle. There still might be activity going on there, but it's usually at a slightly slower pace. So you can kind of step out of the churn of the area where you might find yourself and into a space that's more peaceful.
If you even have a public park that's got a playground in it, being able to sit on a swing and tap into your inner child is very good shadow work.
If you are into using time travel for shadow work too, that would be a good way to bring out your inner child.
Mm-hmm.
Water features in parks are also really good places to sit. When I attended the Penn State satellite campus in Altoona, there was a water feature there. It smelled like fresh natural water, even though it was man-made, and they put lots and lots of rocks in it so that there was a lot of sound and there was a lot of rippling noise that moving water makes.
Water is very soothing.
In general, water sounds for a lot of people bring us back to center. They help us find a place of calm. It's not true for everyone, just like nothing is true for everybody, but in general, humans are sort of programmed to like the sound of water. So rural areas, as we stated at the beginning, are one of the first places that people think of when you talk about doing magic and genius loci. And because of that, we're not really going to talk about a lot of the typical places where you might do magic because they've been talked about a lot. In a rural area, one of the things to pay big attention to is unusual animal behavior. And it's a little bit harder to spot in rural places because there are a lot more animals around that are going to just do their thing. Waking up in the morning and finding a herd of deer or a flock of Canada geese in your backyard making a racket or eating your garden is not unusual. It's when I was young, my grandparents had a farm in the middle of Pennsylvania that I frequented a lot. And a few years before my grandfather passed on, they started seeing a mountain lion that would come down from the mountain at the top of the farm and walk through the garden, across the driveway in front of the barn, and back down into the creek on the other side of the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
The game warden in the area that my grandmother called said that mountain lions are not native to that area, so it couldn't have been a mountain lion that they saw. Except that they saw it more than once. It never bothered them, never came up on the porch, just was probably prowling around for deer or foxes or turkeys or the pigs, goats, cows, and chickens that people keep on their farms in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But it was significant because apparently mountain lions are not supposed to live in that area.
Back during colonization days, when, Pennsylvania and New York and New Jersey were just colonies, we did have mountain lions in the Appalachian area.
Oh, interesting. So it's kind of a leftover?
It's either leftover or memory or time portal. It could have been any of those things. But just like we used to have a lot of wolves in our area as well, we used to have mountain lions. I don't know if they came all the way up because they were like pumas, the Florida cougar.
Yeah. Okay, so quick Google search says that wildlife authorities now agree, this was some years ago, that at least some cougars are living wild in the Appalachians.
Mm-hmm. They used to live wild in the Appalachians before our population grew.
Right.
So yeah, it's amazing that your grandparents were able to see a mountain lion in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this would have been back in 2006 or 2007 that they saw that. So where did this being come from? What was it there to tell them? Because it was a very unusual thing to see at that time. Another strange encounter that I had with an animal was when I was a teen living at home, and I lived even deeper in the wilds of Pennsylvania. And I was walking in our local public park, and up out of the creek bed, as I was walking the path, came what I thought from a distance was a very large, strange-looking shaggy dog. On closer inspection, and when it stopped to look at me and I was looking at it, I realized that it was a young black bear. And we made eye contact. And realizing that the bear was young and I didn't know where its mother was, I very calmly turned around and walked back the way I came. The black bear cub did the same thing. But this was unusual. This was not something that happened in this town. There wasn't a known family of black bears living in the area. It was very strange, especially during the day, to see something like this. So again, what was going on here? What was the message for me in terms of that, the things that were going on in my life at the time and my associations with bear? I 100% needed protection, and I needed reassurance that that protection was there. As an adult looking back, that's probably what was going on.
My rural animal encounters were relatively normal. Chipmunk, scurrying about the yard. Squirrel, he's jumping from branch to branch. Deer coming in and looking for slices of apple, which they preferred. Or they would eat carrot that we would toss towards them because we didn't really want to get too close. Black bear using our porch as sunbathing. Animals that you associate with woods of Pennsylvania acted normally for us. We had turkeys, groups of turkeys, pebbled roads, and, gobbling at each other. What always struck me as significantly different is when domesticated cat, who was just strolling amongst them as if nothing was happening.
Strolling among the turkeys?
Among the turkeys, or weaving her way between the legs of the deer as they were eating, being able to meander about the porch railing as Black Bear was sunbathing.
Was this always the same cat?
Nope, not always the same cat. I think it was more or less the same family or same group of cats.
Same clan.
Same clan. It didn't happen all the time, but when it did, it was kind of significant. How are you not getting attacked by turkey? I mean, turkeys are territorial. They don't like other animals very close to them, especially when they're in a group setting. They can be very nasty, especially the female turkeys.
Yeah.
Cat just walking amongst them.
What was the significance of that for you, do you think?
Looking back on it, it probably has to do with my ability and or need to know that you can be from a different setting and still interact with others of different settings without causing chaos. without problems arising, without there being fights or anything like that. The fact that cat could do all of this meant that not only could I do that as well when going into different settings, that would make me nervous because not a people person. I'm antisocial, social butterfly. But when others were coming in, there was no need to go into a panic because there was a stray cat coming into a gobble of turkeys.
Yeah.
You could just as easily be a turkey interacting with cat as cat could be strolling amongst the turkeys.
And there was a significant risk for cat strolling among these beings too, because a startled deer is a very dangerous animal.
Yeah, and to be weeping amongst their legs is not the best place to be, but that's what cat did.
Right. So also be brazen. It'll be okay.
Yes, it was definitely a message of being brazen and to not be threatened by someone else being brazen either. It's not a threat to you when someone else is bold. Be bold, be brazen, and that others being bold and brazen is not a threat to you.
That's extremely interesting. Another set of animal encounters to suburban. I forgot about this until you were talking about the turkeys. When I still worked in the corporate sphere, I was working in a very, very toxic work environment. It was not a good work environment for me. There happened to be a female turkey and one of her poults. Now, she only had one. Typically, they can have up to 12, but she only had one. And I would eat my lunch outside. And very often, she would come around the shrubbery very slowly and cautiously with one of her black beady eyes fixed on me and just dinosaur her way past where I was eating. And she was as tall as I was while sitting down. And in hindsight, I feel as though she was probably telling me, you belong here about as much as I do. She never approached me. She never tried to make me go away, but she was telling me, you belong here about as much as I do. About a year later, I was still working for the same company, same office, but we had moved locations. I was driving to work, and there was a small flock of female turkeys, 3 or 4 of them crossing the road. And I stopped, as a polite person does when wildlife is going across a back road. And the female turkeys, instead of calmly continuing to cross the road, turned around and attacked my car. They were pecking at the wheels. They were fluttering. There were about 3 of them going after my car and a 4th one like behind them, egging them on. And again, this was probably not super, super long before I separated from the company. It was probably about a year later, not less. So at intervals, turkeys were telling me, you need to get away from this place.
If you're not going to dinosaur your own way into this, you need to get away.
Exactly. We're telling you to turn around. We're going to attack your car and tell you to turn around. So that's all we have on our topic for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and we hope you'll join us again soon. In the meantime, you can follow us for more witchy wisdom, both here and on our blog, and you can also check out our original art on Society 6 for sacred decor and more. Thanks again for joining us. Go make some magic and live your best life.
Bye!